I had a terrible experience about my third day there. Company commander calls me, and I go and see him. He says, "You're going to take a patrol across the Rhine River. I want you to pick out 5 fellows to go with you." And I said, "Oh my God." He says, "Well," and he gave me all the instructions and everything that I needed to know, and he says, "You'll go down there right after dark, about 9:30 at night, and go across, and I want you to bring a prisoner back." That's just my first assignment. God, they didn't teach me this in OCS. They didn't teach a thing about that. So we get all set, and I'm trying to get, rather than have M1, I'm trying to get submachine guns for the fellows to carry, because just for the firepower. And we got 2 is all we could round up. And so that night, we go down, we get the boat, and the truck takes us part of the way down, but not real close. And then probably from here, maybe across maybe 3 city blocks, 4 city blocks, we're from the river, and comes over to the radio, called it off. So I'm relieved. So next day we go back and says, "You're going to go tonight."
Well, how'd you select the 5 guys?
I just picked them out.
Just randomly?
Yep. Yeah. And so the next day, they tell me we're going to have to go again. He says, "Now if you want to, I can get you on an airplane and we can fly you up over where you're going to land." I says, "Well, that might help some." So they put me on a Piper Cub. I went back to an airfield. I don't know how far back it was. I wasn't real far back. Had an observation plane and got in it. And that's the first time I'd ever flown in a Piper Cub. And I didn't like flying. I didn't want to fly anyway, you know. But they threw me over the river. But he wouldn't. I tried to get him to go on the river or on the other side, and he wouldn't do it. He was only flying on this side of the river, and kind of ways back from that, which you couldn't see. But it was a suicide mission, I'll tell you right now. I'd have never come back from it. The 2 they had done it 2 times before, and the first group that they sent across landed in front of a machine gun nest, and they got wiped out. The second one, they never heard. They don't know what happened to them. So I just assumed they drowned, you know. And I was the 3rd one going over. And 3 nights this went on, and they called it off every night. The 4th night was a full moon. No, not going across on a full moon. You know, you're going across when there's no moon. Yeah. So called it off, and they called it off permanent then, because we were going to cross the river in about 2 days, the whole outfit. So they called it off. And boy, I can't remember the designation of him, but there was a major there, and there's a colonel there, and they called me in. I'm down in the basement, and that major just got his butt reamed out because he didn't know there was a full moon. So it was, you know, I call it a suicide mission. I'd have never come back, you know. So that's how quick you can get killed over there. My buddy gets hit the first night. So I don't know. So then we crossed the river, and when we weren't in the lead company going across. We were what they call the reserve company. We went across right after. And they put us in these unit called a duck. I don't know if you know what a duck is or not, but it was a Navy thing. And that duck, when we were going across that river, was headed straight up the river. That's how swift it was, to get us across at the same place where we wanted to land. So I don't know what we'd have done in a pontoon boat, rubber dinghy. We'd have probably been 10 miles down the river from where we were supposed to be.
Was that at night or in the morning? Or?
When we crossed?
Yeah.
In the day. Yeah.
Is there any fire or any?
Well, they started an artillery barrage about 6 o'clock in the evening, and it never stopped until 6 o'clock the next morning. And we were, like I said, we were about a mile back, 3/4 of a mile back from the river, and the ground just shook. Just shook. I mean, you lay on the ground, it vibrated. And you said, nobody can live through all that. And when they went across, there's fellas there waiting on them. So all the artillery in the world just won't wipe out everything you want to wipe out, you know.
Well, were all the bridges disabled then?
There wasn't any bridge across. All of them were blown down. The only bridge across Rhine River that they ever got intact was at Ramadan. That was the bridge, and it stayed, and then it collapsed eventually from all the traffic going across it. But that was I saw that bridge after the war, and it was over when I went into Graves registration after the war. And that's a very interesting story too. That I don't know how many people you've ever interviewed with from a Graves registration company, but it was. I'll tell you about it in a minute if we got time.
So once you got across the Rhine River, then
We got across the Rhine River. Our company, my platoon, was there to secure the ground on the river at the crossing, because the engineers were starting to build a pontoon bridge crossed already, and we were there to secure, make sure it was all secured, and that was when I saw my first dead German, and he was just laying there on the ground. They had bunks dug into the embankment, and those bunks were still intact. You couldn't tell where the artillery ever hit them, and we stayed there for maybe 4 nights, and I think one night maybe we got artillery shell, but as soon as it got dark, you were in your foxhole. You had your foxhole done, you were in your foxhole, and you didn't get out of your foxhole unless it was an emergency. And pretty soon I hear one of the fellas down from me, "Lieutenant, we've got a fella hit over here, we need you to come over, look at him." So I got out of my foxhole. I'm with my runner. You know, each platoon leader, you had a company runner. You had a runner, and there was a runner at the headquarters, company headquarters, where the captain was. And he had a runner, and he would send it to the platoon, or vice versa, so that you could communicate that way. Because radios, they were terrible. They just didn't work very good. But anyway, I went over to see this fellow, and this is how bad some of them couldn't take it any longer. He had taken a hand grenade. Now, I'm telling you, the ground was muddy. There was that much mud, maybe 6 inches of mud on the ground. And he had taken a hand grenade and had stepped on it, pulled the pin, dropped it on the ground, stepped on it, pushed it down into the dirt, and blew his foot apart like that.
Wow.
His boot and everything was just like he'd taken a cleaver at the bottom of his foot. He wanted to get out so bad. Of course, he got out. You know.
So what did you do?
Well, I know he might have got a Purple Heart for it. For all I know, I don't know what the story. You never see him after you send him back. I mean, you send him back and you never see him again. You know. So you never get real personal with your men. I never did. I had one that I got a little personal with, but very seldom. You just didn't want to do it because you had to make a decision, just like the river. You know, hey, you're going and you're going and you're going, and you had that. That's what you had to do.
So what